everyone. Welcome back to Car Chat. Hi, Carlos. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Actually, quite happy with our first episode. I could see a lot of people tuning in to watch yesterday when we did the launch, and a lot of engagement. So pretty happy. Hopefully, people are enjoying our chats. I think there's a lot more to talk about. We have practically unlimited topics, right, Carlos?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got some good ones coming for sure. But yeah, I got some pretty good feedback so far. People have liked the content and how it was carried out. So I was very pleased, honestly, very pleased with everybody's response on it.
Yeah, me too. So hopefully we can keep it interesting. And again, like I said, there's got a lot to talk about. We could do a show probably daily if we wanted.
Oh my God.
But we
Yeah.
got great topics coming up. You need to watch out for that.
Yes.
But today we're gonna go more personal. We say in our intro that some of the things we're gonna talk about are some of our own personal stories with cars,
Mhm.
and we hinted some of that in the last episode. But today I want to talk about our first cars and sort of our experience. And with that, we're gonna also talk about what were those cars that we were dreaming about back then in the 80s in our case, and we'd like to hear from everyone in terms of what cars they were dreaming about when they were teenagers. I'm
Absolutely.
sure people have, car lovers, they always have posters in their rooms, and we're going to show some of those posters today. So that's going to be a trip down memory lane, Carlos. And the other thing we're going to talk about today is which is the favorite car you've ever owned,
Yeah.
and why. So it's a bit of a personal episode of Car Chat, and hopefully people can relate and share your own experiences. So why don't we kick it off, Carlos? Why don't we
Absolutely.
start with our very own first personal car? I mean, in your case, what was it?
Well, for me, it was actually a 1985 Honda Civic.
Ooh.
Civic S. It was kind of like the three-door hatchback. And I remember I was about to go to college and uh, went to a dealership looking for what could be the vehicle I want to use and for the commute and whatnot. And honestly, after looking around and of course the price tag on it, that was a big factor.
Right.
But I ended up settling with a Honda Civic Model S, which was the sporty version hatchback back then, with a 5-speed trans, with a whopping 76 horsepower, buddy.
76
76
horsepower.
horsepower. That was like, whoa,
That's
mind
like
blowing.
cars these days, they have that in every wheel, pretty much.
And that's a mild car nowadays, right? So it's
Wow.
like, are you kidding me? For every wheel, carburetor back then, so it's like not even fuel
Yeah.
injection. You hadn't arrived yet in that type of vehicle, so it was a fun little car. I had a blast with it. Lots of memories and good stuff on it, and I like working on it. Back then when we were teenagers, we like to do like tinted windows right away,
Of course.
and then start painting things in the car to be all more one color and get rid of the black, and did a lot of those little things all the way around the car, getting the upgraded fog lamps. If it didn't have fog lamps, added those in.
Right.
So remember back then the little rectangular Bosch fogs that were like
Oh
very
yeah.
popular.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
They even brought a cover. Remember they had covers?
the
That
little
was the
cover that
thing.
said Bosch on the front, all
We
that,
we look like rally cars.
it looked like rally cars. It's like all those little things, and exhaust, like always, change the exhaust and the pipe, and it was a fun little car. I even upgraded the steering wheel actually a couple years later.
You did. I don't
Yeah,
remember that one.
no, I did it in Mayagüez, on the other side of the island. A buddy of mine had a CRX, and he had upgraded his to a Momo steering wheel. And he says, "Hey, I got my original steering wheel if you're interested." And I bought it from him. And the CRX SI steering wheel is a little bit thicker all the way around. It's got a little bit
Okay.
better shape, and
Yeah.
I liked it better, so it fitted better the car. So I ended up doing that. But yeah, all those things,
Cool.
and upgrading stereos. You
Oh,
remember how
well,
we
hey,
went
that was
around?
big. The Pioneer stereo, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or
Or
going for the
Alpine, the
Alpine,
Alpine. Yeah, yeah.
had to be Alpine. And back then it was tapes, right?
Tapes.
Cassette decks and the tape, whether it had DBX or not, that was a big deal. Get that feature on it.
Oh,
Uh,
DVX, noise reduction.
Noise
Yes,
reduction, gotta
that was
have it.
big.
Showing your age now, buddy.
Wow. Well, I think people are gonna think that you and I were like, Honda enthusiasts, right? But
Yeah,
that was always a great first car for people. Honda, so
that is
reliable, right? And
that
they
is
still are to
correct.
this day. Mine was a 1983 Honda Accord,
Mm,
four-door sedan.
yeah,
It was, I believe, it was the second ever generation of the Accord. It was easy to drive. It had a great sort of ride to it. I still remember the feeling of driving that car, and it was like so easy to drive, so well made. The car used to be owned by the father of a girlfriend I used to have, and if she's watching, yeah, I remember. And then we bought the car from him, and it was burgundy colored,
yeah. I
which was
remember.
not like very cool for a high school kid, but and then burgundy interior cloth
Cloth.
interior. And the other thing I remember, and hopefully I'm going to be putting some of those pictures here so that you can see those.
Right.
The other thing you might remember, Carlos, and I still to this day, I was thinking about it last night. I had this sticker in the car that I put in the car just to distinguish it from everyone else. And now I'm trying to think what it meant, and I still don't know what it meant. Remember the no rats sticker I had?
Yes.
I
Yes.
hope I can find an image of that on Google and put it here. I still don't know what that meant. No rats. I know it was the 1980s, but if somebody remembers that sticker or what it meant, please comment below, because I don't know. Anyway, that car, I did the same as you. I put fog lights, the stereo. Everyone wanted the Alpine. That was more expensive, so I went with the Pioneer.
Yeah.
And then we did speakers, and then so on. And mechanically, I didn't do much. I put louvers. I thought that was gonna, increase my aerodynamics in the car and add 5 more horsepower. I don't even remember the horsepower. I have to check that out, and
Yeah.
possibly I'll put it down here once I get the data. But and then over the years, I said it's a boring looking car, and you might remember that I decided to repaint it,
Yes.
and I repainted the car in white.
Correct.
And I painted all of the black trim in white, because that was the thing as we were getting into the 90s, was like cars to look more futuristic. They have the same color all around.
Yeah.
Got rid of the black trim, or got rid of all the chrome in car design.
Did you ever
So
painted the wiper arms also white?
I did. I painted everything in white. Back then, repainting a car wasn't as expensive as it is now.
That is true.
So I even thought about repainting it in a third color, right? But
Yeah,
ultimately,
yeah.
I ended up selling the car. But yeah, our first cars were Hondas. We had a lot of fun in them.
Yeah.
They were not particularly fast, but we thought we were kings of the world. Remember that?
That's
Yeah.
right. But they were fun
Yeah.
to drive. I mean,
They
at
were
the end
fun
of
to
the day,
drive. They were fun to drive.
that
So
was it.
if we go to the next question, so then what were the cars you were drooling for? What were the cars you dreamt of? And perhaps you had posters, because I had posters in my teenage room, and I can put some of those, but I'm going to ask you first, what were your dream cars back then?
Well, honestly, I have to think. They were. I can think of probably 3 of them that I really, really like, and most likely a lot of the people around our age probably say similar things about it. In no particular order, and then at the end I'll tell you which one was my favorite out of the 3. But first one, Lamborghini Countach. That was a statement vehicle in the market. When it came out.
Right.
Everybody talked about all those doors going straight up, and
Yes.
it's like, oh my god, unbelievable. Super wide rear tires, the wedge shape of the design, there was nothing like it, so it was a lot to talk about and say, that car in white, in black,
Right.
featured in so many movies in the 80s. It's like, hello. Yeah, Cannonball Run, things like that would show
Yeah.
and feature the Countach. Everybody drew about that car. The second one comes to my mind is Porsche 911 Carrera, obviously.
Oh,
The lines and the shape, undistinguishable. It's like everywhere you go, you know exactly what that is.
right.
And I just love that shape and the Carrera name, the styling. A lot of nice things that I really enjoy in the car, and it's
And
been
that
one of
is
my
that like the 1987 to 89 that had all the black trim around
black
it,
trim, especially with the whale tail.
the whale tail.
Whale
Yeah,
tail was when it really, for me, made the biggest statement that the car looked fantastic.
I agree. I
It
agree.
was just
Iconic,
stunning,
iconic.
such stunning. And then the third one, which is still today, man, one of my favorites, is the Ferrari 288 GTO.
Oh,
The front end of
mm,
that car is just magnetic. I love it.
right,
There's
right.
something about the styling of the car. You look at the side, you look at the back, and the front with the four lamps lighting
Yes,
up underneath the beam. It's like, wow,
yes.
fantastic. I don't know what was it about it, but it just resonated with me quite a bit. And today, I still think it's one of the most beautiful Ferraris ever done.
Agree. And it's known as the first supercar.
Yeah.
And if you see many videos that they've done of the cars in that era, the 288 GTO is known
Mhm.
as the first supercar, and then Porsche had an answer to it, and so on.
Yeah, they won.
No,
They got in
iconic,
959.
beautiful car. I agree with you. Mine was, and I'll tell you the order, right? I think for me the 308, which is like a version of the 280 GTO because it's based on the same
Mhm.
sort of design, and having and that owning one like I do now. I mean, and look at this, is the logo of my channel, right?
Yeah.
Magnum PI. It was iconic. Cannonball Run. I mean, it was in so many movies. And to this day, I think it's still one of the most beautiful designs ever, right?
Mhm.
And it started a design language for Ferrari that exists to this day. That intake in the door, right?
Mhm.
You still see that in
Yeah.
the 488, in the
Yeah.
Tributo, and so many other cars. The V8s, right?
Yep.
The second one was the Countach, right? Same as you.
Yeah.
Who didn't have that poster in their room? I mean, it was iconic. It was loud. It was, to me, the dream of what, if you had a lot of money, that would be the ultimate thing to have.
Mhm.
Now, in hindsight, we know that it was not great engineered, that it has a number of issues, that it's
Not
not
very
practical
practical.
at all, but still no shape matches the excitement that people had when they saw that thing, right? That wedge design
Absolutely.
was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then my third one, which I think was my favorite one, still unattainable, was the Porsche 959,
Okay.
right?
All right.
And it was again like a souped up version of the 911. It was Porsche's most advanced car. To this day, that car started some engineering trends, and you might know that better than me, that exists to this day. It was beyond the era in terms
Mhm.
of what Porsche did with that car. And I think it's still beautiful. I had the chance to see one in the flesh
Mhm.
recently in one of the car shows, and I
Yeah.
just sat there looking at it like I couldn't believe it was in front of me, right? It's $1 million car, more than a million now,
Yeah.
very limited edition, but those were the cars that I had posters for in my room. And I think the 959 was my favorite back then. So yeah, trip down memory lane, Carlos. I mean, there were other cars, right? And I'm sure you had other cars but these were like so iconic and so 1980s, right? That were part of us growing up. So the third question is, what is the favorite car you've ever owned and why? And this is a hard question because I struggled with this one last night thinking through it. What's your answer, Carlos?
Man, that's a tough one because I can definitely pick some good things out about some of the cars I'm on and say I really like that and this and that. But if I were to sum it up all together, I would have to say honestly, it was my 2002 Focus SVT, and I say that because for what it was, the vehicle, it was pretty much a three-door hatch, right? And as a three-door hatch, it actually had a lot of capability on it, versatility, the seating, the big hatch for space and storage. And I did use that car all over the place. When I carry my gear, one of my hobbies is to do radio control racing. So I carry all my gear in that car very easily in and out, all kinds of places. But I really like it because it was super nimble, very agile, very rewarding to drive. It wasn't necessarily a super fast car. And at the end of the day, it had great package. What they did to the engine powertrain, it got a 6-speed G-Track trans on it, and the engine was an upgraded engine. It's got had some nice feature. One of the things I love the most about it is like the red line went 7,200, which the engine liked to be revved way up. Nice. And it featured back then something new that wasn't in the market for us, which was a dual stage intake. It was a manifold actually that after, if I remember correctly, about 5,200 RPM, the intake manifold expanded and the runners expanded, which allow then to pick up a little bit added horsepower in the higher band of the engine sweep of RPM. So it was super rewarding to drive it and drive it fast and hard. By no means it was a supercar or fast or anything like that, like cars we see today. But there's something to be said about cars that are relatively slow, but driving them hard is very rewarding. Right. And I even took the car doing, I did solo autocross on it. So I got some pictures for that I can share with you guys.
Oh, you need to share those.
So you'll see that. And yeah, it's overall a very rewarding experience. I kept the car for about 10 years and I drove it to about 145,000 miles. So
wow,
nothing major done in the car at all.
Do you wish you still had it?
I wish I had it. Unfortunately, I had to sell it back then when I went on my assignment in South America to work for 3 years. So I had to get rid of it.
Cool. In my case, and funny enough, it's also a 2002 car.
Ooh.
So I had the first generation of the Audi TT coupe, right? So I bought a 2002. I bought it in a day that I look back and I'm sure I looked weird when I went into the dealership because it was right after the day after 9/11. So everyone is concerned about the world. Yeah. And there I was in a car dealership. They looked at me like, why are you here? Yeah. Right. And it's probably my thinking as a car lover to just get away from the sadness of the situation and then, look at that car that had come out, the previous year. It was a concept car in 99 that made it practically the same as the concept car. So it's probably the first time that it happened. That industrial design of the TT, I thought it was beautiful, striking, different, very German. I love the interior, all the aluminum details on the interior. It looked very rich, very expensive for a car that wasn't that expensive. I mean, I paid $40-something thousand for that. Mine wasn't even the 225 horsepower. Mine was the 180 horsepower. And it was in dark green. I'm gonna show a picture here, a couple of pictures. And I just love that car. Everyone loved that car. And again, I had faster, more expensive cars since then. But to me, that was the car that I was just, in awe of. And I crashed it one day. It was, it was tough. It was almost, total. It wasn't. But then I sold it. I moved to other different things. And then through the years, I was like, oh, I wish I had that car. I wish I had that car. I wish I had the one that I really wanted when I got that one, which was the silver convertible with the baseball glove seats.
I wonder what
And
that
then
looks like.
fast forward, right,
Yeah,
to my, beautiful Patty, as I call it,
yeah.
where I found this, and then I've been restoring it, and it's the spec that I really wanted back then, and I just love that car. Everyone that knows me knows that that's my baby from the cars that I own, and I will never sell it, right? Because to me, it's still relevant, it's still beautiful, the design is there. I like it even more than the second and third generation of the TT, and it's still striking. So it was a hard choice, Carlos. I had to think back because I like many cars that I've owned for different reasons, but that's the one where it probably triggered something in me, right?
Well,
And I
let
think they
me
did a
ask
great
you.
job at Audi. Go
Let
ahead.
me ask you something. You're along that line from the driver experience point of view, and this may be this may trigger some people, some of the viewers looking at it, but how would you compare that to your first ever purchase generation of your Miata?
Oh, right. It doesn't. So from a driver's car point of view,
Okay.
and I think many people will agree with me, and I'll show a picture of my Miata here. Nothing compares to that Miata. Okay, it didn't have much horsepower, but
Nope.
that car was so well balanced. It's a driver's car. That's why they race those cars right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
There's a big following of the Miata, and I understand why, right? It's a basic car that was, designed to mimic some of the British roadsters in the 1960s. Small, nimble, simple, reliable. Mazda did an incredible job with the MX-5. To this day, one of my favorite cars. So it was a better driving experience than the TT.
Yeah.
But every time I saw the TT, I admired the design, right?
Yeah.
It was like sculpted from a block of aluminum.
Yeah.
And that's why it's probably the only car currently in the Guggenheim Museum, right? And that car, because of what it meant when it came out, and the fact that it went from being a concept car into production in the same way. I mean, there was about that, and I love car design, right? But your question is great. So from a drivability point of view, the Miata is probably,
it was a beautiful engineered car. Honestly, it was brilliant. And I remember one of the best advertisements Mazda used to have. If you remember the car magazine, that would show a Mazda Miata and they would show 50-50.
yes,
That was classic.
yes,
Just to
classic,
make a point that this is
classic.
an extremely well-balanced car
Yeah,
and loves to be driven
absolutely.
enthusiastically. So it's like, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. So those are our personal stories, Carlos. I want people to comment in the video and on social media in terms of what were your first car, your favorite car that you've owned, and those cars that you dreamt about when you were younger. We got great episodes coming up, Carlos, and great topics. We're gonna talk about, for example, the chip industry and that the effect is having on the availability of cars at the moment. It's a complicated topic, but we're gonna have an upcoming episode to talk about that.
Absolutely.
And many other things, right? So we're gonna leave it there for today. Thank you, Carlos. Personal stories are the best. You don't need to do much research other than remembering, right?
Yeah, well, sometimes now remembering sometimes it's getting challenging.
Sometimes you need to look for evidence and refresh your memory. But anyway, I'm asking everyone to subscribe, hit that notification bell. The link to subscribe is here, and hopefully we'll see you again in the next episode. Thank you, Carlos.
Stay tuned. Thank you.
Take care.